Hello, everybody. My name's Milan Starcic. Welcome to Freedom Rising, a podcast dedicated to empowering individuals on the journey to personal growth, lasting serenity, and freedom from addiction. Tune in and join the movement. Your journey to freedom starts here. We neither represent, promote, or demote any 12-step program or organization. We are merely souls on the path of recovery with the desire to expand our lives and experiences and share them with you. Hello, everybody.
What is up?
Hello.
Welcome to the 175th Recovery Freedom Rising podcast. I'm Milan Starcic with co-host Andrew Normand and Annette F. Today's topic is surrender. Would you share what this means to you, Andrew, and why you're happy to discuss this here today?
Yes, this is one of my favorite things ever. And Miss Annette, good to see you. Welcome back.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Good to see you back. It's been a little while. We miss you. We miss you. We miss you. We love you. This is one of my favorite topics, Milan. It's kind of come ever since the rebirth there that we had a little while back. The resurrendering. What is it? Of March 2025?
Yeah, March 2025, courtesy of Tommy S.
I have TS right next to it, man. Look, this is a program of surrender, not self-improvement. We'll get into that a little bit later, but when I break it down, like surrender, it's a tiny word with giant consequences. It looks small on paper, but learning how to actually live in this surrender lane and try to live and change, and it's changed my life. It changed the direction of my life. It saved my life. I used to think that it was, a weakness, defeat, failure. I was giving up the fight. When you surrender something, you're giving up the fight. You're surrendering. It's in my mindset, it was to lose, but we're surrendering to win here. This is a completely different type of surrender. We talk about surrendering to this process that might, get us out of that self-centered thinking and kind of turn this thing around, because we didn't come here on a winning streak. A lot of us, most of us. I didn't. I definitely didn't. And so I used to think it was kind of giving up the fight, but what I really realized, and what recovery has taught me as I've been able to get cleaned out and do a little research on myself, surrender is the doorway to freedom. Simple as that. You got to surrender before any of this that we're talking about in, 175 episodes. Anything that we've talked about, if you don't surrender first, you're not going to, none of it's going to make sense. Truly. It might resonate on your head, but in terms of this process and what we're trying to do here long term, surrender is the way to go. It's the way it starts. It's where it's at, in terms of opening the door to this process. I mean, it's a place where I stop bleeding internally, right? I start bleeding that energy out to control everything in my life, man. I can't control everything. I cannot control what's going on. The world is moving, like things are happening. I am a speck of a speck of a speck of a speck of what's going on. And so, but on top of it, but then to turn that thing around, like I'm a miracle too. It's like the fact that we were born, there's like a 1 in 400 trillion chance that like we were actually physically born people, like, to start there, right? We're magical, and we're all miracles. And if you can get a day clean off your DOC, or get a day clean or day sober or whatever, that's a damn miracle. My literature tells me that's a miracle. And I believe it because I couldn't get a day clean. I could not stop using to save my life. There was nothing that I could do or anybody around me that loved me could do that could get me to stop using drugs. And so the whole thing starts with me with surrender, man. Surrender. I got to out surrender this thing. It's it was a term that I knew, and I've worked the steps and all that, but until I really kind of wrapped my brain around it a few months back, it hadn't really taken off like it has now. But this thing means completely different, something completely different for me, and it has made my recovery. It's notched my recovery up a different level. I think it's made me stronger. It's made everything that I do a little stronger, because I know I can, identify something, surrender, identify, and turn it over. Do what I can about it, and I can surrender the rest, man. Let it go. It's not about me anymore. So we'll pass that to you, Miss Annette. Thank you for being here. What does surrender mean to you? Glad you're here.
Yeah, surrender. I just thought about this topic, and I was like, oh, I'm sure that with 175 episodes, you've done this topic a few times.
Ooh,
Well, you know,
next to gratitude, it's probably the most, or acceptance.
Acceptance, yeah.
but it just seems to be coming up for me a lot. And yeah, I love that that one of you had repeated, surrender. This program is not a improvement program. It's a program of surrender, and and yeah, it's. I was like, what made the difference for me? What made the difference for me when I wanted to stop drinking and using a million times for years? I wanted to stop. I told my friends I was going to stop. I didn't know what a 12-step program was. I mean, I'd heard of it, and I thought that it was just something that you had to that you got court ordered to do. I didn't think that people actually voluntarily went to a recovery program, because like my dad had to go to, they called it diversion, or and it was, you had to do it. So when I finally walked in the rooms, I didn't know. I had so much resistance, and the only thing that made a difference was that I surrendered. That I was, obviously I can't do this on my own. I've tried. I've told people I was going to stop. I stopped for 11 days one time, and I don't have the wherewithal in me to do this on my own. And I never really had trouble with a higher power. I knew that there was some, for me personally, I believed something was out there. I also believed that that something wanted nothing to do with me, because I could fool a lot of people, but I couldn't fool whatever was there. And so I didn't feel worthy to ask for help. But I heard in these rooms that that's what we needed to do, and I heard in the steps that that's what we needed to do. And once I did that with the help of my sponsor, every single step of the way, um, I surrendered my will. And that was my first lesson in surrender, where, oh my God, I got past the 11 days of not using. I just got to 20 days. I just got to a month. There's no way that, and in the beginning, that's all I wanted. Just wanted to be clean. And it helped me with that. I don't think it was till maybe 2 years ago, honestly, that I really learned to put all of my trust in my higher power that I choose to call God. And it came through watching other people, and a couple of women especially, who just seem to have it together when they talk about their higher power and how much they trust their higher power. So it's just been like an etching away of my ego. But the more I surrender, the more I go downstream instead of upstream, the better things go for me, and the easier it is. And that means letting go of my ego for me, um, which is a real freedom, to be able to do. But it's also a daily practice.
I love that.
Beautiful. That was a beautiful answer.
Listening to you guys, I was almost forgetting my initial surrender. Like I know that sounds ridiculous, but you know, um, I've been really fortunate that I don't think about drinking or doing drugs very much at all, really. And but when I was listening, it took me back to that first surrender of mine, and at that time I remember surrender was the Jedi mind trick of the program. It was like the how all I could think about was more consumption, more while using more, and then all of a sudden it was like gone. It was just gone, and I was like it makes me think of that Simon and Garfunkel song, "The Sound of Silence." Like it was just like boom. I all of a sudden started gaining peace and space inside my brain, and that was just unbelievable to me. That was the first thing that gave me faith inside this program, and how that happened. Yeah, I'm doing this thing called two-way prayer now, and so the two topics that I kind of questions that I keep going through between is how can I love more completely and how can I deepen my surrender, right? And it's like, because really, like, the initial act of admission of powerlessness is one phase to it. But, when you get further in the steps, essentially you're getting asked to surrender all your defects and shortcomings in step 6. And what that really means is like really giving up the fight on stuff that we suck at fighting anyway. But, like it's it you want to talk like a blow to your ego. It's like you'll never change that. That sentence getting said to you by a sponsor or somebody, and legitimately them being right, like we just run around these circles, like whether it was with our addiction or with our emotions, that surrender is really like the one thing that I've seen break that circle, you know and so like in AA, man, it's like that, we have a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition, and it's us being in a spiritual buoyancy that still lets us surrender every single day. And then like in Living Clean, they talk about surrender is a process that continues long after our first admission of defeat. So like a deepening surrender for me now means like that I don't have to control outcomes, and that that freedom is aligning with the spiritual principles and starting to let go of self-will. And I think we're going to have a bunch of amazing questions. I love you guys. I'm really glad to be here. It's so nice to see you, Annette, and hey, I missed you since Friday, Andrew.
I missed you too. All right, Miss Annette, I'm going to ask you first, okay?
Okay.
So what does surrender look like at your lowest moment?
Fear, I guess, would be it. I mean, at my lowest, if I'm having a low moment, which happens, obviously, like I think about um, real specifically when my father died, which I was pretty early in my recovery, and I went home to be with my mom. My brother was there. I love them dearly, and also we're family, and we have triggers, um, and they were getting pushed. And I remember, like at that point, like that's about the lowest that I felt, and I was very. I had like a year and a couple months. And that time doesn't really matter, but I was like ready to drink. I was wanting to drink, and the minute I felt that way, I went downstairs and I started calling people because I didn't really want to, but like it was an impulse. It seemed like an idea, and just in talking to a couple people who were just like, that's not a good idea. It's not going to make anything better. All the cliches, but what someone said was like, you're held in this program. You have your higher power, and you have our support. And I just had to. Maybe someone said something I don't remember, but I remember very consciously saying, "This is how it is. This is what you've got." My mom's not saying anything that's a surprise to me, and she's fucking going through her own process too. Her husband just died. He's been her best friend since she's 17, and you got to give her some grace. You got to surrender to this situation. It's not about you. And oh my god, if I was drinking, it would have been about me. And I prayed and went back upstairs, and everything flowed because I just like divorced myself from my ego, and it was a hard lesson. So um, that that I think that's the clearest example I can give of what it means to me.
That's beautiful.
I
That's
love
beautiful.
that.
All right, Milan, are you ready?
Okay.
So what does surrender look like at your lowest moment? Tell us about it.
Man, I got to struggle here. I mean, like, well, I've been really having a good couple months. Like, I'm actually having a struggle to think of something bad right now. And Well, you know what? It's kind of like when I got that acceptance tattoo, right? Last year. I'm gonna say that for sure. That was probably getting for those anybody who doesn't know the story, but I did my second step four with my sponsor last early early July last year, and basically, what was it? Yeah, it was July last year. Sorry, just trying to recollect it all. And inside my step four and doing my step five with him, basically it boiled down to all of my problems in that were a lack of acceptance. Which I mean, acceptance is kind of just like one of the colors of surrender, really. Like I mean, and so him and I have this massive philosophical talk, and he's just an amazing guy. And I left there feeling in a state of about the greatest acceptance I ever could. I get in my car to drive home. The phone rings. It's my daughter. Right away, she's like, "Hey, when you thought you had a daughter didn't have cancer?" And she's like, "Well, you don't. I just found out from my biopsy that she had cancer." And it was like right at that moment to hear that, like it was it was like bang. And immediately I was like, this isn't about you. Like just like you were saying, like, your dad's death, it was like your mom was still there. Like, like not surrendering or accepting what's happening and making it about us is just like perpetuating our self-seeking, selfish actions that we were in addiction, And I remember just thinking like, she needs me here now, and this is not about me, and and I think for the first time in her life that I was able to be there for her, and like I don't know. I don't think that I was tremendously low at the moment I found that out, but I certainly got taken down a notch in my existence. But it really showed me that surrendering those defects that were right on the front line, ready to come out, was the only thing that was in line with spiritual principles. Every other route I could have took would have been self-will. Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's beautiful. And I was gonna say, so my question was like, and I think you understood it, but maybe what did surrender look like at your lowest moment? Like when you died on the table, like what was like that's what I was kind of asking. But it was a
Oh,
great answer. That's kind
yeah.
of what I was asking.
Yeah.
But that's okay. That's okay. You can answer it down the
Yep.
road. You
Y-
had
y-
a cool answer for it anyway.
I think I was just having too good of a day. It was hard for me to go to find the
You did.
love.
I think you were trying to get there, and then you're like, "No, I'm gonna go here," which is cool. Which is cool. And so, and this is another thing. Look, you and I go way back, Milan, and so I can say how I feel. But this is
Yeah.
how I genuinely feel. I think looking back at this, this will be funny. Looking back at it a couple years from now, you say that you haven't been tempted and all. You really you stand on that. You stand on that shit that like you really are blessed that you haven't been tempted, but I don't believe you. And it's not that I don't believe you. I feel like I feel like, and you hear me out. I feel like you have a lot, but you've been so kind of trained mentally. You've trained yourself mentally to really just slap that shit away immediately, and then you roll through it. And so you talking like, hey, I really haven't been at all tempted at all. You have had to think about it, but you just kind of hit it down. And how you talk about it and processes is that you have not been, which I understand and I appreciate. But I think looking back at it, like 5 years down the road, you get 5 years under, you're gonna be like, bro, I was talking shit at that point. But that's me. That's me. That's just me talking to you.
We're gonna have to have a different podcast about this, maybe Wednesday.
We could. I love you, man, and I love you
Yeah.
to death.
Yeah.
So, what does surrender look like in my lowest moment? So, and I didn't really want to lead off with this question, but it just popped up in my head, and I wanted to just to kind of get it
Mm.
going. But man, because I have to go back, because I had tried to stop using a lot. I tried to stop using a lot, man, and with that, I tried to switch substances. I tried to change all my, substitute substances. I tried to substitute people, places, things, that whole thing to try to get what I had to get, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And I remember being in this just self-made prison, this hell of a life where I was just day to day, just trying to hang on for dear life, just trying to get to that next morning to where I had enough where I could get up and feed the beast before I fed myself in the morning. Man, and that was a really, really tough place to be day in and day out, day in and day out. You know, you got family members calling and checking on you, and I didn't have any answers because that pride and ego just weren't letting me go there. They weren't letting me go come out and do that courageous thing that we do where we come out and say, hey, we're an alcoholic addict or whatever. We're an addict. You know, I'm an addict. I got a problem. I didn't even know I was an addict then. I knew I had a drug problem. And that's not what I thought. I thought I had a drug problem. I didn't know that this was addiction. I didn't know. I thought that I had a drug problem with certain drugs. And so the day that it finally broke, you know, when I lost all control of my body, when I was kind of driving down the road on the interstate on the bridge, you know, I had been so beaten down, just mentally, you know, I've been so physically sick for days and days, you know, weeks, months, years, whatever you want to call it, just in that cycle of having enough, not having enough, on the verge of withdrawals, just constantly. I was just mentally, physically, and spiritually bankrupt. I was spiritually bankrupt. I was mentally tortured and physically sick. And that's all I was. It was just a cycle of those three things. And when my body shut down and I had to essentially be rescued from where I was at and taken to the hospital, you know, coming to and knowing that I didn't really have a choice at that point. Like my body wouldn't, I couldn't even talk. Like I couldn't even talk. I could like mouth words and sentences over like a long period of time, but I was just whimpering, crying, and I could just do what I could do to breathe at that point. I thought I was dying, and I was okay with, like, I was cool with it. I wanted to go climb into a set of bushes and just die alone. That's all I wanted to do. I remember thinking I was going to get out of my car, and just there was a little set of bushes, and I was parked in like a side Hardee's parking lot because of where it was right off the interstate, and that's where my car just ran into. And and um and I didn't really even know what surrender is. I didn't know that there was a God working in my life, right? But that raw honesty that when I woke up in the bed and like the guy next to me is like, bro, you're in the right place. What was your problem? Like, and I told him a little bit about what I was, and he told me I was in the right place. He was like, let's go get something to eat. And I felt like shit. I felt really bad, but I felt like I could breathe again for the first time in, 20 years maybe, where I didn't have the weight of the world on my back. Having to go get all these substances. And it's not even the weight of the world, right? We think it is, because it's like, I felt like I was gonna die if I didn't have all these substances, man. When I went in the hospital the first time, I think I had like 7 different substances, including fentanyl in my body. I've never done fentanyl in my life, ever, 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 ever. But obviously, I did. It got into one of the things that I was doing, and somebody, that's what happens. That's how kids die. And so I had to surrender and understand, bro. Like, I'm not in control anymore. Me being in control got me here, and I can continue to do this and wind up in jails, institutions, or death, or like I have to find a new way to live. Like I have to, So it was that quiet voice when I had nothing that said like I can't do this anymore. And I remember saying like I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I remember saying that for years leading up to that point. Now I remember it was going to break. I remember telling myself this is going to break eventually, because I remember saying it, but knowing like I just wasn't ready yet, or whatever, the world wasn't ready for me to come off drugs yet. My brain wasn't ready to do it. And again, I had to be forced in there, but it was that quiet voice that was like, bro, I just can't do it anymore. I just can't do it anymore. I need help. And when I was able to do that, that's that initial surrender, like for me, and that's what it looked like at my bottom, man. When I was done, when I was cooked, when I was completely cooked, that's where the surrender process and the door opened up for me to this thing actually working for me, and me being able to make a commitment and a surrender to win, and not just be like, I'm gonna get off drugs for a little while and we'll see what happens. No, surrender to win and do things different every day. So that's my answer.
I love that. Annette, do you have a question for me?
Yeah, I do. I'm just wondering, because I think maybe should we answer the question like looking at our first surrender, or should we move on?
I think you know what this show is like. We
It's
answer whatever inspires us, and
fluid, man.
yeah. It's we've surrendered to that many episodes ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm just gonna go back. I'm just gonna go back to Andrew's first question then, or just about like that low surrender, because now it's in
yeah,
my head. Like,
yeah,
oh, you
yeah,
mean like first surrender? So I
mm,
can't move on until I talk
yeah,
about
yeah.
that
Do
surrender.
it, say it.
So we got 2 hours.
Yeah,
So um,
Mhm.
so I just I thought that the only thing I knew about AA was that it was a program that was you were sent to by the courts. It wasn't something I knew about. I called myself like a drinking enthusiast. Using various drugs was a lifestyle choice for me. This was, this is how I reasoned out my life, what I did, and it was also very codependent because I always was aligned with uh, someone who was a drug dealer, who did drugs, who I always aligned with someone or a group of people who were worse off than me. In my head, seemed worse off than me, and who I was like, "Ooh, this guy's an addict." I couldn't see to myself until I just started behaving in ways that didn't feel like me, like very abusive. Um, to like this guy that I was with, I would look at texts the next day that I had sent that I don't remember. I had no recollection of. They were so vile, and for some reason he stayed around. But I had a super violent episode one night where I like was trying to punch this person, ripped his glasses off, broke his puka shell beads, whatever that he was wearing, and was like starting to choke him. And he pushed me off. And the only reason I don't remember doing those things, I saw the broken glasses, and he pushed me off and like held me down and was like, what is happening, And the next day I didn't know who I was, and it was violent, and it was an active blackout, which I'd had before, but that was a violent active blackout, and that scared me. And I started trying to get sober, and I couldn't do it. So I was trying on my own because why would I go to this court ordered thing? That's weird. I went to a therapist and went to another one. She gave me a book to read, and finally it didn't take very long. A few weeks after the last time I tried on my own, I was out trying to score drugs, and for me, it's like any white thing I could smoke. And I woke up the next morning and I had to go to work, and I also had signed up to run a 15K, and it was just like, you're an idiot. I looked at myself in the mirror like you're a complete disaster. You're a disaster. You're a drug addict. You're an alcoholic. You don't do any. You're worth nothing in this world. And I'm talking to the mirror, and which I didn't like looking in the mirror. And I ran into. I was desperate, and I ran into a woman who I had seen in rooms before, um, that I dodged in and out of and didn't have any consistency with. And she asked me how I was, and I broke down. And she had lunch with me. It was a Whole Foods. They have like a little cafeteria area, and we had some salad. And she told me to come to a meeting with her that night. She was the speaker, and I did. And it ended up being like there were a few speakers, and one of them was the sponsor of the woman I chose as my sponsor. So just I saw her sitting across the room, and it was just I was flooded with like, okay, this is it, because I knew it was so quick for me to go from trying to be sober for a period of time and to like trying to find drugs at 3 in the morning, and I knew it wasn't going to get any better. And that's just what I thought. Like this is not going to get any better, and I was like a person, who in the desert who needed water. I was like, anything, I will take it all. I will do everything. And that was surrender. Like my will.
Beautiful.
Ooh,
I had no will. I had no
Thank
will.
you for answering that. Thank you
I
for
love
answering.
that. I'm glad. It's nice to hear that part of your story too.
Hmm. Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then Annette, does you want to have Annette ask now? Is
Yeah,
that what we
she
want to
can
do?
ask me.
Sorry.
No, no,
No,
no.
you're good. That was beautiful. I like that. I'm glad you did
I'm
that.
glad you did it. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
this is how this thing
Okay,
works.
so
She's
here's
a
how this
pro. She's a pro.
came. Whatever that means. Um, here's okay. So here's one I was thinking about today. Um, how do you find the balance between surrender and personal responsibility or taking action?
Hmm. Well, I think the things that I try to surrender are things like I believe that, it's not like I don't believe that there's like fate and we do nothing. Like I could just sit on my couch and have the same successes or loves or anything without me being an active participant, I was doing a podcast this morning with this guy from Texas and he said, he said, he said, his exact words were, God does what you can't, you know? And so for me, it's like I set myself up for my greatest opportunities of success, and I'm trying right now really to surrender outcomes, to surrender like other people's timeline, things like people, places, things that I cannot control, like those things I can try to micromanage and it's never a successful thing. And so a way that I do it now, like I'm a realtor. You know that, Annette, and Andrew knows that. But you also work in the real estate. You're still working in real estate? Yeah, yeah. Okay, and so that there's like time where we send out offers, and like we're like in the void of waiting, right? Which is a real time frame that I've had to learn to surrender. And it's just like now I'm like send, and I send it, and instead of like having like an anticipatory wait time, I make sure my phone's on, and I'll either like exercise or write a song. And I'm just like, like either way, at the end of that, I will have exercised and I will have a new song. Two things that I care usually as much about as a deal. So it's like I kind of I've just started to develop different techniques and also recognizing when I'm not. Like that's a big thing is that I think especially like right when I started getting straight, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm surrendering, and I'm not, and I'm not, and it's just like being able to see where I'm still trying to hold that puppet string in life, right? And where I'm letting it go. And so some of that for me has really just been listening to a couple books about surrender. And like, all of a sudden they'll talk about something. I'm like, oh, that is something that I'm still holding on to. Like being like, I'm going to see the world through Milan colored lenses all the time, and I think I'm pretty creative, but they're still you know they're Milan colored lenses, and so it takes quite often it'll take somebody else pointing something out, and that helps me, So having confidants, having a sponsor, having friends who, like where we cut the bullshit, like, and it's okay, So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I'll take that question, Miss Annette.
All right. Uh, how do you find the balance between surrender and taking action or personal responsibility?
That is a great question. Um, when I think about it, like beforehand, that was a real blurry line for me before. I thought surrender meant like doing nothing. I thought like it meant like just letting life do what it was going to do and kind of letting it roll over me, because I was kind of in my little side universe anyways. You know, I was kind of like in my little space car over here doing my DOCs, you know, DOCs plural, right? And you just leave me alone, and you know, the world just kind of do its thing. As long as I'm not hurting anybody, you know, I'm doing okay, right? That's kind of where my brain, you know, found a home at comfortably, right? Where it's like, hey, you're not hurting anybody. Which little did I know, I was hurting a lot of people, you know, doing what I was doing, because I had a lot of people that love me, still have a lot of people that love me. A lot of people helped get me out of this thing. But when I think about it, surrender is not just stopping using. Like, you talk about taking control and acting. You know, when I first surrender, I've got to, like, you know, take action from a different place inside of me. You know, a place of honesty, that because I'm not used to practicing honesty. You know, I got to find the will to practice honesty. I gotta find that place where I can go get it when I need it. Which, as we work this program, we realize that's all the time, because this is an honest program. You know, these things are built on honesty. Like if we're not honest, like what in the hell are we doing here? You know, this is all built on honesty. If we're lying about, you know what I mean? You can't be out here lying to people saying you're an honest person. It just doesn't work. You know, it doesn't work. It does not work like that. So as we get in here, we get real honest, we get rigorously honest. But when I know when I gotta act, you know, I surrender to act. You know, when I'm restless and irritable and discontent, you know, that's usually a sign from God that, like, I've got to do something there in that area of my life. Like I gotta take some kind of action. I gotta process that in some way. I gotta identify, and turn it over. I can do that with everything in terms of if I'm gonna act on something or not. Um, when I get stuck like over obsessing about something, because I can get in that lane too, where I over obsess about things. You know, replaying that whatever it is in my head. You know, arguing with people in my mind. You know, that's when I got to surrender, and maybe not control that situation. Like there's certain things I got to act and certain things I don't. But when I feel fear, you know, or panic, when those are driving my decisions, like I'm whatever I'm doing, I got to step back, and I gotta let that go. I got to surrender it. You know, if I'm constantly manic and I'm like herky jerky, like there's a reason why, and I'm able to kind of tap in, because I do a lot of praying. I do a lot of praying, a lot of you know, talking to him and kind of turning that will over throughout the day. You know, that serenity prayer. The more and more clean time I get, the more and more I use the serenity prayer. It's like tactical for me now. It really is, man. When I was flying to go see my girl in Louisville, I probably said it 60 times on the flight, because I just don't like flying. You know, see these people were like 200. You know, one person lives. It's just crazy. I just hate flying. I don't like flying. It's just wild to me. So I had to turn that over. I got to surrender it. I got to surrender that when I'm feeling some kind of way, it's because I'm trying to control my feelings in a situation. And if I can let it go, man, it makes it way easier to just, you know, breathe. You know, it's that letting go. It's that you're talking about, Milan, where you're holding that rope and you finally, like, you've been tensing up on that rope for an hour, like in that Survivor game they have, like Survivor. You just been holding on for dear life, and you just gotta let go, man. Gotta let go and let those muscles relax, and you just can breathe. So I kind of I tap into my feelings and how I'm acting in a situation. It kind of tells me whether I gotta surrender it, or I can kind of continue to control or try to manage that situation, if it's healthy or not. So it's a great question. Thank you for asking.
Thank you for answering. Yeah, I didn't ask that question with knowing the answer right away, so I'm glad to be listening to you answer it. There was a daily reflection that was read in the recovery group that I attend on Sunday mornings, and it was talking about one of the phrases in it was uh, God will not do for me what I can do for myself. And this got me thinking along those lines. You know, what there have been, the thing that comes to mind the most is in my professional situation, there were some boundaries that I needed to set. And I didn't want, you know, I don't like confrontation. And to me, something that's very basic communication with someone is a confrontation to me. I'm just so nervous about like, how am I going to come across? Am I going to seem like a selfish person? Am I going to, it's like, oh, well, um, if someone's asking you to do something at 11 o'clock at night and I'm getting like super stressed about it and anxious and like, oh God, what? Um, so with the help of my sponsor, after a while, she's like, okay, all you have to do is set a boundary and just say, hey, here's the hours that I'm not available to work after. And I get so nervous about these things, and my sponsor knows the person who I'm talking about, and she's like, she's gonna be fine, like she's gonna be fine. And of course, I said, hey, I just need to set. I've got my little script. Oh, I just need to set some boundaries. I've noticed that. She's like, just tell me when it's okay. When
You're
you
like
can.
sick to your stomach. You like can't even talk.
Yeah, totally. And then it gave us a time to have a good conversation. She's like, I send things the minute I think about them. I send them to you. I'm an assistant. She's like, I don't mean you have to get out of bed and do it right now. And she said it, of course, in a kind way. And it just allowed us to have this great conversation that made our working situation together way better. And there are just certain things that I find very difficult, and it's because of fear and it's because of ego. Those two things, like to play volleyball in my head. And so so yeah, and I also really liked, and so again, it's surrender. But I really liked, Milan, when you were talking about how you like, okay, if there's something that's just kind of pending and you have no control over it, what can you do? So just started putting that into practice, like, okay, let me clean something in my apartment, or let me rearrange or organize this cupboard I've been looking at and then all of a sudden I've done something productive, and I'm not waiting around and for something I can't
You're not building
control.
a resentment in the meantime.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, there's lots of ways to look at and answer that question. Thank you guys for considering it. And
Miss Annette, you were talking on fear. This is my new acronym for fear. Future events already ruined. Fear,
oh my
FAR.
god,
You better write that one down. It's my new one. I know you'll like
Woo!
that.
Yeah.
Future events already ruined. And then sin, SIN, self-inflicted nonsense. Get you some.
nice.
Right.
Okay.
You'll be in the middle of a chair and you'll be like, oh shit, fear. Future events already ruined. It's gonna be like, boom, drop the mic. I'm sorry, I had to say that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
loved it. That needs to go on a placard.
It does. It does.
You ready for a question, Andrew?
Yes, sir.
Okay, deeper surrender begins where comfort ends, calling us to trust beyond what we can see. When has stepping into discomfort strengthened your faith?
Wow. Well, wow. When I first got here, everything was uncomfortable, man. I mean, just coming to meetings, forcing myself to come to meetings was extremely uncomfortable. I was told when I got here that I had to change one thing, like this one big thing, and it was everything. We've all heard that before. Got to change that one thing, right? That's everything. And I used to not come to meetings, so my brain was like, I need to go to meetings. I remember when I first got out of treatment and I was thrown back in to the world as it was. A lot of things hadn't changed. I didn't really know what I was doing mentally. I didn't have any hope. I was fresh out of treatment, detox, and then treatment, but I had no hope. So um, just knowing that, like I had some kind of, I had something working in my life, man. I had to believe in, like, my mother had always believed in this God, some higher power. My family members, the ones closest to me and friends and stuff, had always believed in something, and I always believed in something as well. But I was hurt up in terms of hope and having any kind of faith in my life. I had no faith. I was like, hey, so here I am. Um, I had no work ethic. I didn't have anything to really pump me up. And I had to believe in what my mother believed in, because she still loved me, man. Even after all the shit that I did to her, like, I believed in the simple fact that whatever she believed in was going to work for me. Because all the shit that I've done to her, the fact that she still unconditionally loved me and the things that she was still doing for me blew my mind. You know, they blew my mind. And so just that, you know, and I'm sorry about my dog back there barking if you can hear her.
I was
Um
loving it. I like you're serious.
She's awesome. I love her so much. Nala. Yeah, but being able to tap into that gave me a lot of strength to get me to these meetings, to get me to open up in these meetings. You know, hearing that honest sharing is the antidote to our disease, thinking all that good stuff. There were people that were telling stories about things that I had never heard of before, and I didn't understand why they were doing it. But when you start doing it, when you start sharing about those moments, and you're crying up when you're sharing, and you're sharing that real shit, it's so therapeutic. It's so therapeutic. It's all part of this process for me. This whole thing kind of intertwines itself with the surrender, the love, the hope, all that stuff kind of goes into one for me. So just the being able to tap into that gave me enough power to get over those uncomfortable feelings. It was like a raw truth that I felt. I felt raw. It was like raw, but it was like kind of it was really uncomfortable, but it kind of felt good. Kind of like when I first started using drugs. Like when you first start using that hard DOC or whatever, you know, hard drink, whatever. It's like you almost get sick when you're drinking it or taking it, but then it's like, okay, well, let's try to go again, and then you might get real sick that first time. You might be throwing up, whatever it is, drinking or doing another hard DOC. You're throwing up in the bathroom all night, and then you get up and you might, let's just try it just in case. I'll try it again just in case, you know, and y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. And then you might get a little less sick, it might feel a little bit better, but I'm just gonna go back just in case. And so that's what I got to do, tipping my toe like into these meetings, into service. You know, let's just try that service thing out just in case it's going to get me just a little bit better, you know? And that's how it kind of works for me mentally, how I can lean into it pumping myself up and not beating myself down now. So that's a great question. Love you.
Love that.
Oh,
Okay, Annette, deeper surrender begins where comfort ends, calling us to trust beyond what we can see. When has stepping into discomfort strengthened your faith?
I mean, really, I think stepping into discomfort when I got so real sober for real, I decided I wanted to make a change in my life, and I wanted to live somewhere tropical, and I wanted to at that time I wanted to have a juice bar, you know, whatever I did, and I started planning it out, and it was extremely it was extremely out of my comfort level. But as I started making plans and looking at how I might do it and logistics, and it started becoming a little less uncomfortable. And as I, you know, moved to Belize first and did this restaurant kind of work, it was extremely uncomfortable, and it was again it was I learned a lot about setting boundaries, um, and I learned it was a really hard year. It wasn't like an amazing year. It was rough, and but I just kept I don't know I just kept putting one foot in front of the other, and I was sober, and I was talking with my sponsor like on a daily basis, and then somehow through whatever course of events and changes I wanted to make, and I decided to sell the business, which took me was an uncomfortable conversation to have with this woman who I made plans with, and we got into this venture together. And having to divorce myself from that situation was hard, and you know, because I knew she was going to be upset, and I got through it with like guidance from my sponsor and what I know of this program, and approaching it with love and honesty, and it brought me here, like to this place that I absolutely love. That was never in my plan, that I never would have dreamed of. I didn't even know this place existed, and just, you know, moving through that, which was putting one foot in front of the other in uncomfortable situations. I've just ended up in this life and this place that is beyond my dreams, and I'm so grateful. Like I'm so grateful. And so there was a lot of there were a lot of like a lot of work I needed to do along the way, but a lot of surrender and just taking the next right step, and having conversations that were really difficult for me. Um, yeah, I am so happy and I'm so grateful. And I, I, if not for this, if not for recovery, there's no way. I don't even know what I would be. I might be alive, but I might be holed up in a room somewhere and no good to myself or anyone else. So
Beautiful,
I
Annette.
love that.
That was beautiful.
I'm not loving you being holed up in a room by yourself, but
That's
I
made my
love
heart
that. I
warm.
love that the recovery's had that amazing
Yeah.
effect, because I feel like, for me, I always say, I'm like, thank God I found this before I died, not having found it.
We've said that. Yeah, we've
You know
thought
what I
that.
mean?
Yeah, man.
Like it's just been such a profound change in my life, and like this is why I'll talk about surrender all day long, because like surrender has just been such a profound part of my change
Yeah.
and part of my freedom, really.
Mm-hmm.
So when has stepping into discomfort strengthened my faith? I mean, oof, like the whole coming into the program was like it was not like my first choice. Like people would say, I didn't slide into this thinking, like, yay, I'm here, like,
A winning
and
streak. Nope.
no, and I really had to eat some nasty, uncomfortable truths about myself. Like as soon as I started doing the steps, which was the first hour I arrived at treatment center, they're like, here you go. It's now step time. Okay, we're going. You're getting into this. And, you start writing out a lot of things. And the questions that they're asking are really revealing some truths about yourself that they're not like my favorite parts about myself, let's say that, and I was definitely doing a bunch of things that were absolutely hurtful to people I loved, and even myself included in that. Like I was literally killing myself and having to see that, with this step forward, that I was the cause of all my pain and my perception, the very way that I thought was making most of my unhappiness and fueling most of my bad decisions. Like, so, but, as soon as that started, like, as soon as I started the process of the steps, life started changing. And that was like the seeds of faith. That was the seeds of hope growing into faith, is what I would call that for me. And it has not stopped. Like every single time I'm kind of getting somewhere, whether plateau, like last fall, I had a friend relapse and I looked at my program and was like, okay, like I need to pray and meditate more. This is something that I wasn't doing enough of. And so that was uncomfortable to start out in. It absolutely was. And then, but it's been a process of growth and really brought some of the most profound changes in my program. There's discomfort change getting my health back. Like I mean, I was like smoking since I was an embryo till I was 51 and a half. Like I mean, my mom smoked inside. By the time she stopped,
Literally.
I started. Like I am now 18, almost it'll be 19 months on the 1st of October free of cigarettes. And
wow.
like the
Proud of
the
you, bro.
changes that were possible because of that. Like I just didn't have the energy level that it took me now into exercising more, and then just kind of Forrest Gumping it around the world now, and now jogging up mountains, and it's been a
Mountain
really
man.
mountain man going up the mountains. I and like there's the fuck it voice all day long in my brain when I'm doing exercise. It's like, that's enough. Oh yeah, you can just stop now. You did enough, Milan. Like that voice is always there. Because literally when you're really pushing yourself in any form of exercise, you know, that is physical discomfort. Like there's a nice after feeling, but like when it's burning and you're grinding, it's not like, yeah, that's a tasty bowl of ice cream, like, or doing nothing, you know. Um, but the results fuel me. But it's like one of the things that like Michael Singer there from The Untethered Soul. I really loved that he put that in his book. Like, you're always going to have that little voice that says, like, don't do it, the fuck it voice or whatever. And it's not about trying to silence that voice, it's about trying to replace the space around it with good thoughts so that
Yeah.
eventually you're crowding out those bad thoughts so that there's less of them happening. And that's really like gratitude and affirmations and prayer, and that, like, that's kind of what takes me there. So, like, the the whole process of the steps has been building faith, and quite honestly, it's still building. It's still building more and more. Like, I'm really starting to see benefits of surrendering my defects and my shortcomings. Like, and some of them, man, some of them are really down deep with family members, like really hard. And, you know, but I still am seeing change, and that's still building faith in that process. So, it's, that one is going to be work in progress for the rest of my life, I'm sure. Like,
It's beautiful, man.
yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for answering that. Are you ready for my question, Miss Annette?
Yes.
All right, so here we go. So how has surrender changed your decisions about relationships and attachments?
Oh, the one that I think of the most is with my mom. And because we just, we have this, I love her dearly. I know she loves me dearly, but we just have this oil and water thing, and in my opinion, she can be very judgmental. Probably I am of her too. And in a lot of ways, we're a lot alike. So it took me it took me a while in this program to learn how to surrender. And I had this really, we used to use this thing called Marco Polo to talk to each other. This,
We got
I
that.
don't know.
We got
Yeah, I
that.
don't know if people still use it or not, but she thought she had turned it off. She was staying with a woman friend.
Ruh-roh.
Oh, and she said some stuff, Annette, she just doesn't know how to handle life. She's very smart in some ways, but she didn't get sober till she was this age, so she's just naive and she makes bad choices and yada 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 yada.
Tell me how you
Whoa.
really feel.
And I was just like, wow, okay. And I played it over and over again, and I talked to my sponsor about it, and she was like, well, you could talk to her about it, but I just wasn't ready to do that. And of course, if I was not sober, obviously I would have been all over it. But um, she told me to do the set aside prayer. And so that's been that was huge for me. Not the set aside prayer. I'm sorry, the resentment prayer. And which just, praying for her and I did it for 3 weeks solid and praying for her well-being, um, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all the things that I would want for myself, um, asking for that for her. And I did a fourth step with my sponsor, and I softened. I softened so much, and I started to really think about what did she go through as a child? How judged was she? You know, what kind of traumas did she go through? And she went through trauma, and it ended up that I started feeling very maternal toward her and very caring toward her. It changed everything. And I'm almost feel like I'm going to cry, but like as
Let it
as
go.
Let it go.
started, as she started sensing my actions, it just opened up this whole window of conversation. And somehow I was able to tell her about this situation. And her first response was like, I would never say anything like that. Those words would never come out of my mouth. And it could be that I was remembering them differently than she said, but for sure it was, you know. And then she was like, I can't imagine how you must have felt to hear those words. And I thought, even while I was doing this resentment prayer, this could have happened to her a million times. I've complained about her. I've said shit about her to other people. it could have happened that my video was open and she heard those things. I do the same thing. And our relationship is healed. Not that I don't get annoyed with her if I'm with her and but whatever. But I look at her in a completely different way. And I know she looks at me in a completely different way. So yeah, that's what I got.
That was beautiful, Annette.
Yeah.
Thank you for answering. That was perfect.
Man, I have had, not with my mom, but I've had that exact same thing happen with other people. And I'm just like, that is so hard to unpack. You
Yep.
know, like I've had that exact same thing where it was like the person thought they'd hung up and just like shit on my entire being. And I was like, whoa, like where do we go from here? That's a really amazing story of forgiveness and redemption, Annette. Like I want to tell you that you reacted way bigger than I did. I wasn't in the program like at all, like when that happened to me. And but anyway, wow. I really think though that that is that's a real good story of surrender right there.
That was because all you see is red at that point. So if you can,
Or tears, you know, or whatever.
yeah, well, yeah. It's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard. All right, you ready for the question?
Yeah, because I don't even remember the question.
How has surrender, Milan, changed your decisions about relationships and attachments?
Whew. Oh man, like
Click, click, boom.
It is. I mean, it has completely changed all those. You know, like first of all, I'll talk about attachments first because I think relationships is even kind of broader. But like attachments, right? I think it's BW there, Iceman. You know, he always said he's like you either fear not getting what you want or fear losing something you have, right? With attachments. But you know, then you take that and then you break it down to like where is my preference in this? And then if you look at your preference, right? Then it's just like, is your preference like honest, pure, unselfish, loving? Is it also something that you have any control over? And like it's like that is such a hard thing to let go. Like this year we were facing losing our house, a house that I built in it like 10 years ago. And I'll tell you, like I could not bring myself to surrender that, like I was going, and we still have it, but I was ready to fight for that no matter what. Like there, and what I realized is that I could surrender smaller things, but something that deep where my like literal blood is in the construction of that, like I couldn't surrender that. I could not do it. And so peripheral attachments are easier to let go for me, but there are some deep rooted ones, um, like I love my dogs. Like I love my dogs. There's not a dog that's died that I'm like, I surrender. It's okay. You
Yeah.
know? And one has died inside the program. So like but then, and that rolls into now relationships because dogs are attachments and relationships. Like I'm the steward. Like I had a really weird moment on mushrooms a long time ago about dogs where it was like all of a sudden I'm like created this slave because I have to order it around, even if it's for its own safety. We order animals around, and I got a really big moral dilemma about that. I was convinced I was never going to get a dog again after that one night because I was like, I can't. And so now I swear, like I don't have the most obedient dogs, but I have dogs that I'm friends with. You know, like I will yell to stop them from getting hit by a car, but like I'm not like roll over. If they want to do tricks, I will amuse them with some trick stuff, but that's when they want to play. you know. But relationships with people now, that is really an ongoing thing where it's like a case by case thing where I'm spending more time now analyzing where I'm not surrendering, like what freedom am I not offering? Because I really see that intolerance and lack of acceptance, like we've talked about this a lot on this podcast, or I have, for me, I really see the far reaching negative effects of making somebody else feel like they're wrong all the time. And I think
Yeah.
that when I was younger and in my addiction, I just was not looking at it like that. And now it's like, I don't want to foster that feeling. I want to foster like love and growth. And the only way to do that is to surrender to somebody else's perfection. And that's something that comes up every day inside my prayer. So, it's a matter of basically, it's for me, it's a matter of prayer, it's a matter of surrender, and it's a matter of gratitudes. And it's like pull like I could easily negative focus, but it's like pulling in the positives and seeing those things that I appreciate people helps me appreciate their perfection as they are.
Beautiful, man. That's beautiful. Sir Starcic of Surrender. Got you, man. Good, got you. Would you
Sir
like me to answer?
Sorensmore.
Sir Sorensmore Starcic. There you go. All right. So you want me to answer now?
Oh yeah.
All right, cool. So how has surrender changed my
Twice.
decisions about relationships and attachments? Wow. Relationships to me, before I got clean and did a little work on myself, I didn't really understand relationships. My only role in relationships and my only understanding of relationships was control, that manipulation. In fear of abandonment, I would base my relationships on that fear of abandonment. But that's not a healthy way to have relationships. There was always that transactional relationship going on because I was always needing something. Um, yeah, always was in need, man. Even when I had what I needed more. I needed more, and I needed it right when I needed it too. And I didn't really care about the outside surroundings or like what you had going on and your time schedule and all that stuff. So surrender now, and as I've been able to process it and use it in my life, honestly and tactfully, I've been able to understand that like I can't control another person's feelings, or their choices or their behaviors. It's not my lane. That's not my job. That's not my role in life. And on top of that, even if I tried to do that, like that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not supposed to be doing that. That was huge when I realized that wasn't what it's about, because in a roundabout way I was doing that without even knowing it. Just because I was, man, I was wrapped up, I was saturated in my disease, man. It was doing all the decision making for me, so I wasn't coming from a place of like honesty and like love and all that stuff. So surrender meant like I can show up honestly. I don't have to write somebody else's story. It's my story, right? And when I'm talking, I got to talk about me. I got to keep it on me. But then another layer to that is like I can't base my worth on what like someone else says or like what they or how it goes, right? I can't base my worth on that. That's a kind of another layer of it for me. Because I would, regardless on whether the outcome was this way or this way, depending on how they felt about me, is how I would gauge how I felt. If I won or if I didn't, or if I felt good about the situation. And then I would hold on to these really toxic relationships because I was getting what I needed, whether it was emotionally, sexually, whatever it was, I was getting something. I would hold on to really toxic relationships that were keeping me in the hole. In one way or another, being with married women, just all that stupid shit that we do in active addiction, I'll keep it on me. Like that was me. And, so being able to know that I had to like let go of those old people, places and things and really move on with new, a new idea, this is a commitment again to myself to win. I'm surrendering to win. I'm not surrendering to lose here. I'm surrendering to win. I want to, I want to die with this disease, not because of it. It's not going anywhere. And so if I can accept love without trying to control it, like that's where I need to be. That's one of the sweetest gifts of surrender for me, is by letting go without having to orchestrate the love and orchestrate the relationship. Just give the love. I gotta just give it, man. I gotta give it and let that person know that I love them and give them love the way I can and the way I feel they need it. And then then I'm done. I can't control on the back end how they're gonna receive it. I just have to come correct every time. I gotta be consistent in how I show up, so that they know when I show up next time that that's where I'm coming from. And so, um, it's all about that consistent, that love, that unconditional love, because that's my part in that, like the unconditional love piece. Like that's why it's so important and it's so powerful. Is because if I say I unconditionally love you, like you can't take that from me. You can't take it from me. You can say all you want. You can hate me. You can do whatever. But if I say that, like, I love you, like I can unconditionally love you, you can't take that from me. And if you got 30 people in a room telling you they love you, it gets kind of powerful.
Yeah.
It gets real powerful. You get to go to a convention, you got 5,000 people and they're telling you they love you, bro. That can change your life, man. It can change your life, because one person telling you they love you, unconditionally looking you in the eye when you've never been told that someone loves you before, that like they appreciate you being here and they love you and please keep coming back. Like when somebody keeps telling you that and they're honest about it, man, that can change your life. It changed my life, because I had to believe them. Like y'all didn't even know me yesterday, but you're calling me by my name, you're giving me a hug, and you're genuinely seem like you're glad that I'm here. And I didn't give you any money yesterday. I didn't give you any money today to be here. Like, why do you want me here? It's just a beautiful process, man. So it's almost got me tearing up thinking about it, because it's changed everything for me. It has, every fiber of my body is committed to this thing, man. It's really beautiful to be able to have emotions and have my emotions move from like laughter to tears, and like I can live in those things today, man, because it's like I've been void of that for 20 plus years, man. I mean, like I was such a tough guy. I was living in that tough guy role, or that like victim role, whatever role I had to play to get my drugs. I don't have to do that today, man. It's not even about me today. That's my ultimate power, comes from the surrender, man. My ultimate power, I can as powerful as I can ever be, comes in that point of surrender, being able to turn that shit over, because it doesn't matter anymore after that, man. I've done what I can, and the rest is up to him, and I'm done. I'm good. What are we doing next? So great question, Andrew.
Love it.
Annette, you got another question for me?
Yeah. Uh, let's see. How do sorry. How do you surrender? I'm trying to think of the best way to word this. How do your character defects affect your ability to surrender?
Ooh. Well,
Which character defects are most difficult for you to surrender?
so first of all, that's been a big thing, I think, really for me since about the end of February. Just conversations with my sponsor, and he was like, well, he's like, that's not really your job anymore, and so for me, what I find is like anger, and I'm not talking like rage anger, but I'm just talking like irritation anger, where I will have something happen. It'll happen, like I feel like fatigue, fatigue and exercise and food. Like if I'm not on a good cycle of that, then I'm more reactive. And so for me, it'll be like something will happen fast, and I'll react, and I'll be like, "Ooh, I don't like who I am. I don't like what I'm saying. I would not like if I was in a room with that person." you know and because I really find, like, how many times have you been with a couple and they're like insulting each other, and you're like, oh, this is a great show, I want to watch more negativity. But it's like I feel like that when I'm angry. Like I feel like I'm watching a show, and if I can't surrender that, or change myself. Like one of the things that's come up for me is trying to practice gratitude, like trying to find three things in somebody I'm with, like that I'm grateful for, because it keeps me in a more positive frame of mind than if I just let myself start like taking their inventory, because that's something that happens, and whether I want it to happen or not, man, I'm really good at your inventory. Like I'm way better at yours than mine. Like there was that lady, that couple that showed up in Sayulita in the winter. I'm not sure if you were at the meeting. They were Tom and Lorraine, and I remember her share because it was like she said, how long does it take to judge a room full of people?"
An hour.
1 hour. Yeah. And it's she's like, I can circle this whole room and make up stories and judgments about it. And it's like I was like, me too. Like, like I can know nothing about someone and start like inventorying like one sentence, and I don't like that. And so it takes practice. It takes practice at surrendering. Like I don't feel that, other than my addiction surrender, the surrender of my defects is a way slower process. And even that's another thing that we have to learn to surrender, is the timeline of how that surrender works. Like
Great
I can
point.
want to fucking be perfect today. And guess what? This is probably going to take as long as it took me to get straight, Like it's a long process. And do I think that I'm a good guy? Yeah, I do now. Like nobody meets me and it's like, man, you're the angriest guy I know, Milan. But it's something that bugs me. Like it's like I am for sure my harshest critic, and I am definitely the most consistent judge because I'm everywhere with myself. You know, like this guy who comes to the meetings. He always says that he's like, I'm not much, but I'm all I think about. and and certainly,
Is that our guy from the other day?
no, this is this
Oh,
is
okay.
this is this is actually my new sponsor's son,
Okay.
and yeah, but it it it's true though. Like, and I think that's probably true for most people. Like I mean, the very act of me thinking about struggling with my defects is an act of selfishness and
It is.
self-seeking.
Yep.
Like that's the craziest thing. It's like when you like tell us how like how much humility you have, Annette. Like it's the same thing as that. Like when we start like, if we think that our ego can reduce our selfish thoughts, like if our ego thinking, like
Our
it's
ego
just,
got us here.
yeah, exactly. But it's just like, that is why, that is the very reason why we have to learn how to surrender,
Need a programmer.
because we have to let go of things that are just like so self-absorbed that it's ruining our thoughts, it's ruining our life, it's ruining our perceptions, it's ruining our relationships, and we can't think our way out of that box, but we
We're
can
too
surrender.
boneheaded. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Yep.
I have
Yep.
no clue even what the question was
That was
anymore.
beautiful. That was
but
beautiful, man. I think it was about the defects and surrendering.
yeah,
That was beautiful. I
but I
love
You
it.
think
got it. You hit the nail on the head. Yeah.
Yep. Yes, you did.
thank
Thank you,
you for the
Mom.
question though.
I'll take that question one more time, Miss Annette.
Okay, Andrew. How do your character defects get in the way of surrender? Or how do you combine those two things?
Yeah, well, as I try to live spiritually now, my thing is I'm trying to stay spiritual and live by these spiritual principles. And so character defects are kind of like, the anti, it's like they go against, if I get a character defect and they're going to go against one of those spiritual principles that I'm trying to live by all day every day. And when I first think about when you said that, when you asked that question, like pride every time is going to step in. What does pride stand for? One of the primary reasons I die early. Have you ever heard that from me? I don't know if you've ever heard that. Pride,
No, but your
PRID.
acronym for
One
like
of the primary reasons I die early. It's a banger. People love it. So pride whispers that like I can handle things on my own and I can get through this. And like, even though I didn't do it last time, I'm going to be okay this time because I learned, well, like it doesn't work. It's never worked that way for me. That's what got me there and what got me here in the first place was continuous thinking that way. And, I've got to understand that surrender starts like with humility. And I have to understand that I don't know everything. I don't know most things. I think I do, but I have to be humble enough to like practice some discernment and like choose wisely going forward and understand like I might need help. I got to ask for help a lot, and people are willing to help me. That's another thing. Like I was so afraid to ask for help. And when you start asking for help, you realize how much people love talking about themselves and love giving out information and love helping people because it's part of their service too. It's like, it's a whole hamster wheel of like, I didn't even know any of this was available. All you got to do is ask. Man, when people come and ask me for help in anything that I'm doing, if I'm good at something, aren't you like willing and happy to help that person? Even if it's like a stranger, if they ask for help, you're like, hell yeah, like this is how you do it. You feel good, So why am I so worried? Like, why does it really make me anxious to think that this person's not going to want to help me? Or like, what am I anxious about here? Right?
Ego. It's ego.
It brings me into like ego, edging God out, EGO, edges God out. Fear, it rolls into that fear. Fear's wrapped in that whole thing, fear. Future events already ruined, or false evidence appear. What is it? False evidence appearing real. That's another one for it. And you can either F everything and run or face everything and recover. And I choose to kind of face everything and recover. I used to think like I was afraid that if I let go, everything would fall apart. But it's through that act of letting go that I'm getting everything that I need in my life. It's such a beautiful thing when you can realize that it's through that act of actually letting go. Surrendering is like learning how to float, Miss Annette. It's not about flailing about in the water and all these waves coming up and crashing over your face. Once you let go and you kind of spread out and you just let go, you start floating. And so another one, control. That control and manipulation. I was a master manipulator. And I would control everything because I wanted to always know the outcome of it. I wanted to be able to control what the final outcome was going to be. And if I didn't, I would blow the shit up, man. I would just cause a scene or whatever it was. But it's all driven by my self-will. That self-will piece that I gotta turn that shit over constantly throughout the day. A lot of times I'll find myself getting restless in a situation or like not grateful for being in a position where I'm at. And then I think about, it hits me hard where I'm like, I could be in a jail institution in death, eating off of a food tray, trading my fucking ramen noodles for a pair of socks. And I don't want to be there anymore, man. I can't be there anymore. That's not a life for me. And then as I read a little bit more, as if I continue to use, because I am an addict, I only have a couple options. I don't have an option to like have my own apartment. That's not one of them. Jails, institutions, or death. I don't want to die. I heard that really sucks, doesn't it, Milan? I don't want to die, right?
Yeah,
so,
it's kind of cool, dark and lonely. Just saying.
No heavens band.
No.
Saving your seat. Like, hey, man, we got the hearth, the gold-plated hearth for you. Like, there's none of that. There's the jail institutions. I don't want to be. I'm not crazy. I'm learning more and more that I'm not as crazy as I thought I was, or everybody else is just as crazy as I am. We just say, I gotta live together, right, and stay in our own lanes, or death, man. And jails, institutions, or death. And I'm not fit for any of them. So, yeah, it's awakening. I got to come to this like spiritual awakening, right? The awakening is like not changing who I am, but it's like discarding who I'm not. It's about trimming the fat. It's about awakening to the person. It's not changing this person. It's just discarding all that shit that I've layered myself up with, all that baggage I've layered myself up with, man. It's about trimming that fat today. So, and keeping the good things. That inventory is about, when a business or a company inventories their inventory, when they do an inventory, it's about the good things and the bad things. It's not just about all the bad things. So I got some good things going on too, and it's about capitalizing and doing more of that, which allows me to keep surrendering and all that. So great question.
I love
Love
that.
you guys.
Annette, you want to answer your question?
Yeah, my dogs are making some noise now too.
We love them.
I
The
saw your
native,
cat peeking.
yeah, they're I don't know what's going on, but yeah. So character defects and surrender. Um, Pride is, pride connected with ego and fear. Our insecurity in particular are things that pop up for me. They're the character defects that pop up for me the most. And these character defects that we have, that I have, were certainly things that helped me with my survival during my childhood years, and when I was using. They were. I kind of I felt like a piece of shit all the time. So I guess my ego, my pride, helped me kind of like, no, I've got this going on. I'm good. Help gave me some value, some self worth, even though it was not coming from anywhere very real. But in recovery and learning how to surrender and learning how life gets much better, when you're like you're floating downstream instead of trying to fight everything. I'm able to let those defects of character go. But there are certain ones that pop up, and in my recovery community here is quite small. I mean, it gets really big during the high season, but the core group is quite small. And there are some people that that bug me, that I don't like the way that they respond to things. I don't like the way this person is conducting their program, and it shows up in their shares. And I don't like that this person, isn't interested in general service, because we're kind of trying to become more part of the service structure. And some people don't like that. And I think that's bad. And so, which is literally taking other people's inventory. And, I was talking to my sponsor about it, a particular situation that really bothered me. And we were talking about turning it over, just turning it over, not taking that person's inventory, coming from a place of compassion. Why is this person behaving in this way? And I was like, yeah, I guess I'll just keep an eye on it. And she's like, how about not keeping an eye on it? And I was like, oh, you're right. Yeah, I don't need to keep an eye on that. That's not doing me good at all. That's my pride. Being like, you're a much better, member of your program than this person is. And everybody. I heard someone say, it was just a podcast. The person happens to be sober, but it wasn't a sober podcast. But this person said, what if God came down and told you this person's doing the very best they can with what they know right now? And that was a really big deal to me. And if I can come back to that, then that's how I surrender. Like, oh God, you know, I don't know. Maybe somebody was judging me when I first came into the rooms, probably. Um, but they didn't let me know that. They loved me, and they let me be the best I could be at that time, and they encouraged me, and they showed me through their actions how I could be better. And this is another one where I feel very sensitive. I never thought I was a judgmental person. I never thought that I walked around with a big ego thinking I was amazing, but it still pops up sometimes. And it really is watching how other people do it, talking with my sponsor, and really moving through life with love and empathy, and understanding unconditional love, that people have given that to me. I need to be able to give that to other people. And I don't know, the downloads about love in this program have been really everything for me. So if I can look through the lens of love, I can surrender my character defects. But I have to do it sometimes, a few times a week, maybe once a day, depending on the situation. So
I loved that answer.
Did
Thank
you
you.
hear that answer? Love wins, Milan. She obviously said that. You didn't have to,
Yep.
but
But We've already
Oh,
settled that. You don't like it is not loving
It's
to
a
rub
little
my
subtle
nose in
jab,
it.
little baby jab,
It's not
baby
loving to rub
jab,
my nose in it.
baby
That is
jab,
not love keeps no record of wrongs.
baby jab.
That's a
I love
record of
you.
wrongs. That's a
I
record
love
of
you.
wrongs.
Did you get my messages? My message, young man. I just letting you know on time.
Okay, I didn't see
Okay.
is
Just letting you know.
what's going on with you?
I just
Tell
got
us.
15 minutes, man. I'm good.
Okay.
About 15.
Okay. So we're gonna ask my last question and we'll go around then.
Sir.
Okay, Andrew, the 12 by 12 reminds us that surrender opens the channel for grace to flow. How have you experienced grace as a result of letting go?
Oh, wow. Well, as a result of letting go and or surrendering, I mean, I've been changed, I've completely been changed. First things that come to my mind is like, I've removed like the battle fatigue. I'm not fighting the battle anymore, right? I've taken all my war gear off, and I'm not hyped up ready for battle every single day like I used to be, man. I'm finally I can wake up on the right side of the bed, knowing who I am, why I am, where I am, um, and know that like I'm an addict and I've got a plan going forward, man. I don't got to wake up and feed that beast before I feed Andrew every day. That was a full-time job. Just doing that before I even get out of the bed, I had to do that. That's like working a full-time schedule before I even start. Seriously, so it brought me honesty and connection. Every time I surrendered, I found someone that was ready to help me in whatever situation it was, a sponsor, a friend. If I surrender things, I've got people there that are like there to help in a weird, natural, like flow of life way. Like it just works. Like things work the more I surrender, and the easier it is too. The easier it is to get through these things because I'm not having to take care of it all the way to the end. There's some things that I can handle, but some things if I can't, bro, I gotta surrender and move on. Um, but I have, willingness and action. Surrender and willingness are married for me. Like they're like besties that got married. You know what I mean? Like they're like they go hand in hand. When I surrendered, I was able to become willing to take suggestions, simple suggestions. Trust that like this whole thing is going to keep me buoyant. This recovery process is going to keep my head above water and keep me without needing to use drugs every day. And the more and more clean time I get under my belt, the more and more easier it is to stay in that lane too. I even saw a study like after 3 years, you stay clean 3 years, like the percentages of staying clean the rest of your life go up astronomically. Um, Anyways, yeah, so I don't even know why I got off on that tangent, but like I had a lot of shame. A lot of shame, and so I had to rebuild myself. I had to rebuild my identity and who I was, and so I had to tame and drop. I had to drop that shame because it's not, I cannot be shameful to be here. I have to be proud and be honored to be here, and I get to be here. I'm grateful that I'm alive, right? Like let's start there. So, um, shame used to like really keep me down. So, and it feeds that relapse when I think about being in that shameful lane and staying in there for days at a time. Like it's easy to just feel like using the better way to do it. It's a lot easier option. So that's my answer. Great question.
I love that. Are you ready, Miss Annette?
yes, fire away.
The 12 by 12 reminds us that surrender opens the door for grace to flow. How have you experienced grace as the result of letting go?
Oh my God. I mean, this whole program is experiencing. I've experienced grace at the result of letting go of my own. I couldn't control my disease, so I let that go, and that was hard, and the grace that I've received is like I there are no words. There are no
Mm,
words. Like I feel I was accepted when I walked into these rooms. I learned that I was no better or worse than anyone else in the rooms. We all were coming from the same place, so that helped me surrender because I could. These people had what I wanted, and yeah, I just I that to me is a miracle. Like we shouldn't be living clean. We should be. using and drinking. Like we are miracles. Like the grace of God, by the grace of God, we're here, you know, and we can talk about this, and hopefully help other people who are struggling, and show them that kind of grace as well. In my relationship, I think of it. I don't know, the person that I'm with, my partner, is like, I don't know. He's a normie, but somehow he lives as if he's following the 12 steps. And I don't know where that comes from. I don't know how that happens. And
You
he
found a
has,
unicorn.
yeah, it's bizarre. I mean, it's amazing to me. And but you
Beautiful.
know, he has little things that bother me, like little, like maybe a little bit of a phone addiction, you know, that bother me, and I get annoyed by it, and um, you know, and we all have our things, right? But when I'm able to let that go, because this person comes through for me and has consistently for years, and has never criticizes me, always builds me up. You know, like if I'm gonna get on him about this one thing, which of course I have, you know, when I can let that go and be like, okay, we're two separate people. We've set some boundaries. We have an understanding. You know, when I let that go, I can just be grateful for this person in my life, and I can see like the amazing attributes that this person has. And when I'm letting go of my own, like, it should be like this, you should be like this, you shouldn't be like this, then our time flows together really well. It's like kind of like how I was with my mom, you know, when I let things, I stopped taking her inventory, and I became grateful for her, and I became empathetic toward her. um, this program is all about grace for me, you know. Yeah.
I
I love
love that.
that.
So,
Beautiful.
how have I experienced grace as a result of letting go? You know, like I never had peace, serenity, and it wasn't joy that I had. Like when I look back, it was like sensational moments, like sent from sensations, you know, and so it it has only been through the letting, the surrender, that grace rolled in and gave me my first speck of silence, from the hamster wheel of more, and that rolled into, and you know, and that rolled into more and more experiences of grace, like that first step five. Like, man, I first guilt-free day in 51 and a half years when I did
Tears,
that first.
baby,
I
tears.
was crying for 36 hours, like, of joy. The like the you know, it is kind of funny trying to put words to that, grace, and that, you know, you're 100% right on that. But I do think that people out there deserve to know that there's some pretty frickin' profound changes that occur as a result of surrendering to this process, to this program, to living by those principles, you know. And one thing for sure is this, is that when I'm still holding the rope, I'm knocking with my elbows, keeping my higher power out of the situation. Like I'm just like, nope, sorry, this is mine. And there's no room
Hmm.
for my higher power to even have a chance to be there.
Got
You know,
this.
like it's not like both of us are pulling the rope and I'm like, he's real strong back there. Like when I am not letting something go, I am just a selfish little jerk who's holding that whole rope. And I really need to let it go in order for there to be room for that grace to occur. So, like, for me, it's just like without letting go and surrender and acceptance and all the other facets of surrender that there is, really, like I get none of that. I get none of it, you know. And the proof of that is just like, look at what I was going through for 37 and a half years of not surrendering. You know, like that was not peace, contentment, living happy, joyous, and free, as the end of the book there describes, right? Like that just wasn't my example. And that's it for me. I think
Jerk
I
face
love you guys.
Milan. We don't like that dude. Jerk face
Yeah.
Milan.
Well, Annette, do
That
you
was
want to say
beautiful.
something here for the end?
Well, first of all, thank you for being so flexible, because my schedule wasn't being
Um,
too it wasn't wasn't going. It was difficult. Anyway, I appreciate that. I appreciate this conversation about surrender, and I just had to surrender to my dogs who were like desperate to go outside,
Yep.
and it's like if they start barking or get in a fight with another dog out there, it's I got it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I love you guys, and I
I love you.
really, I'm like so impressed that you do this, that you've had 175 of these, and I can see the wisdom. I can hear, like, every time I'm done with one of these podcasts, I'm like, I have like 20 things written down that I got out of it. So thank you so much, really.
But it's like every time I learn something from somebody I'm with.
Me
Like, I
too.
mean, man, your story of what happened with your mom there, I'm going to be thinking about that in situations for myself, Like that's the beauty of this is that we come on, we share, and we all grow.
Yeah.
God
That's it.
speaks through people. I'm gonna
Yep.
say one thing. So
Yeah.
God speaks through people, guys. So we end up getting tested most when it's time to elevate. Remember that you're gonna get tested when it's time for you to elevate. And your next move matters more than your last mistake. And you cannot bring medicine to people who love being sick. That's all I'm
Woo.
saying.
And tune in next episode for more recovery fun.
Love you
Bye bye, everybody.
guys. Thank
I
you
love
again.
you. Anytime. Please help us help others. If you'd like what you've seen here today, please subscribe and share this podcast and help us get to 100 followers. We're looking for interaction with our audience. So please email recoveryfreedomrising@gmail.com or contact Milan South Okanagan Starcic on Facebook with questions, topic suggestions, or just comments. We'd love to hear from you.